Here we go. We have 13 people here so far. Incredible. They're just coming in real hot, real fast. Happy end of year, everybody. How are you feeling, Eric? End of year.
I'm feeling good end of year. I'm feeling like it was a busy year. A lot happened this year. Hey, Louise.
Okay.
Feeling like that end of year tension where it's like you're winding things down, you're planning for the year ahead, but you're also still trying to get stuff done. I feel a
Yeah,
little bit of that weird stuck in transition place.
I feel
Um,
that too.
but
It's like you
overall,
feel
I
the new
feel
year.
good.
That's good.
Yeah.
How's everybody feeling in the chat? Do we feel tired? Are we tired of social? Do we want to throw it all out the window? Like, what are we feeling? What's the vibe? Give me like your rating out of 10. Are you like a one, like I absolutely can't wait for the new year and get me out of December? Or are you like a 10? I love the holidays. This is my favorite time of year. Give me your ratings. Okay, 4 to 10.
Jessica's at a 4. Kim's
10.
at a
Okay.
7. Nice.
I would give myself a like
Danielle, 9. Full 4.
I would give myself an 8 because I love the holidays, but I also am like, this is just like, I could not bother to be scrolling on LinkedIn. I just don't want to scroll on LinkedIn or social anymore. I'm just tired. I'm tired of it all. Bring me to January. New trends, new things to talk about.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
tired. Yes, we're all tired, Jessica. Okay, now that there are a few people here, welcome to the Social Club. So exciting to have you. This is our final that's kind of a mouthful. Um, it's our final social club of the year. This is exciting. We have some awesome panelists today to talk about our recap of the year, things that have happened, trends that have taken place, but also thinking about what's coming. So we have some awesome panelists that are well versed in the world of social and can predict some things in 2026 and maybe talk about some things that we're excited about for what's coming in social and marketing in the new year. If you've never been here before, we'd love to know if you're here for the first time. So if you're here for the first time, share your LinkedIn in the chat. We want to know how you heard about this club. If you just saw us on LinkedIn, if somebody referred you, this is great. So say your name, where you work. We'd love to hear from y'all. Also, this webinar is being recorded, so feel free to subscribe to our Substack. If you are a Substack user, go to your Substack now and subscribe to the Social Club because every time we have a webinar, we post all the updates from this webinar and everything on our Substack the day after. So you'll be getting a full recap. And if you want even to be more immersed in this community, we have a social club Slack where we talk throughout the year. People talk about TikTok trends and LinkedIn and what's working and what's not working in the algorithm. So we have an awesome Slack community. I'll share the link in a little bit so you can join if you're not already part of it. We're so excited you're here. This is going to be a great chat. And if you want to ask a question at any point during this conversation, feel free to use the question box. And by putting your question in the question box, you're automatically saying, like, I volunteer to come off mic and ask my question live. I think there's something fun about having people talk to our panelists. So if you ask a question in the question box, let us know. Yeah, but you're letting us know that you are basically saying, I would love to ask this question live. And if you do ask a question, we are doing a giveaway at the very end. So stay tuned for that. I'll be doing a little spinner wheel for everybody who asks a question, and we will be giving away either a t-shirt or a gift card. So stay tuned. Going to be fun. I'm excited for this one, Eric. Is there anything else I missed out on or forgot to say?
Think that's everything. Yeah, be active in the comments. Please ask
Yes.
questions. We like this to be super interactive. I like to talk as little as possible, so your questions will get answered if you ask questions. Well, we'll try. Sometimes there are too
We'll
many to
try.
answer, but we like to follow up in the Slack group to try to answer all the questions there
Yeah.
async, if we can't get to them all on this chat. Did you
Cool.
mention the giveaway, the
I
t-shirt
did.
giveaway?
I did mention the
Okay.
giveaway. So ask your questions to be entered into that draw at the end. And
We're
also before I
usually
head, sorry, go ahead,
We're
Eric.
usually wearing the t-shirts, but we're both kind of in like a holiday, sweatery, festive mood today
I know
instead.
I was gonna wear my reindeer ears, but I couldn't find them. So this is what you're getting today. Also, before I do go off camera, I do want to welcome for the first time Lisi. Welcome to the Social Club. So good to have you here. I love that you're here. Okay, I'm gonna leave it to Eric to introduce our panelists for today. Stay tuned. I'll be in the chat. I'm going to have so much fun chatting with you guys and get excited for this conversation. Bye, everybody.
Sweet. Thanks, Christina. Okay, cool. Well, let's just bring on our panelists and talk about the year that was in social in 2025 and some predictions for 2026. We'll see where the conversation goes. It can go anywhere. Again, please ask questions, take part in the conversation. We want this to be interactive. So first up, we have Christina Lee, who's head of marketing at Plot, also an advisor here to us at Slate and friend of the program. I think this is maybe your third social club.
Yeah.
ChatGPT says Christina is a powerhouse storyteller who's shaping how creative teams plan and collaborate. She blends brand, strategy, and community in a way that just makes sense. M dash, we're excited she's here. Hi,
Well, thank you
Christina.
for having me. Hi.
Do you
Not
want to
the M
provide an
dash
intro
call out.
that's better than AI ever could?
You know what? Honestly, I am AI at this point, so I think that was pretty solid.
Awesome. Well, excited to have you here and to talk shop, even though you offended my sweater before we hopped on live.
You
Okay,
called it a
next.
Christmas sweater. It's beige. Like, what kind
I
of
didn't
beige
say
mom
it was a
attitude is
Christmas.
this?
I didn't say
You
it was a
just
Christmas
did. You
sweater.
said it was a holiday festive sweater. Chat, did he not just say this? He
The
100%
sweater
just said that.
isn't a holiday sweater. It's festive to wear sweaters around the holidays.
Okay, Eric, sure.
Okay, next up we have Eileen Kwok, social and influencer strategist at Hootsuite. ChatGPT says Eileen, the social and influencer strategist at Hootsuite, is one of the sharpest social and influencer strategists out there. If you've seen Hootsuite hit cultural moments perfectly, Eileen likely had a hand in it. Eileen, big fan of your LinkedIn content. I think this is your first time on the Social Club. So very excited to have you here. Can you do a better intro than AI ever could?
I think chat did an intro that I could never do for myself. So I've only given it the chat. But yeah, it's my first time here. So thanks for having me. I'm very excited.
Awesome. Excited to have you here. Okay, last but not least, friend of the pod, Josh Rangel, social director, senior director of social at Ogilvy. Josh leads some of the most creative and culturally relevant social campaigns in the industry. He's a storytelling force and a meme king on LinkedIn. Meme king, welcome back to the Social Club for the third or fourth time. I don't even remember. You're basically a host at this time.
Yeah, happy to be here. ChatGPT really did not nail my bio, but I think the meme part probably worked. But I am happy to be here, and I love your sweater, Eric.
Thank you, Josh. Thank you, Josh. I really appreciate the support, Josh, unlike some people. Cool. So let's dive in. Okay, let's start with trends. I know this topic came up in the tech check, and it seemed like a really big topic in 2025, at least in the LinkedIn social media sphere. Trend fatigue, brand participation. We could talk about some of the specific trends like the fake apology trend, which I think is the more recent one where there was a lot of conversation about this. I'll start with you, Josh. When do you think brands should and shouldn't hop on trends, and what did you see this year in the space that maybe solidified your thinking or changed your thinking on the subject?
Yeah, I. How much time do we have? I think that this could the reality, the easy answer is they should jump on the trend when it's relevant to their brand, when they have something of value to add versus just adding to the volume of it all. That's kind of my main perspective when it comes to that. At the same time, I don't begrudge any social team or team of one who just wants to participate in something fun. Because, 90% of the job is likely not as fun as just jumping in and getting content out there that resonates with an audience and gets engagement. But I think you have to say, is it relevant to the brand? Do you have the time to actually create something that is going to be sticky or is going to hit? And is it going to be something that's going to move the needle? And at the same time, I think Eileen and I were talking about this, and I've seen Eileen actually post about this, but it shouldn't be the core. Jumping on trends should not be the core part of your social strategy because if that's it, then you probably don't have one. It should be a complement to it as part of that. But I think relevancy and adding value for me are core parts of it. And I will also say it is 100% okay to not jump on a trend today because tomorrow there's going to be three more, and then the day after that, and then the day after that.
Totally. Eileen, I want to turn to you. I know you had thoughts that went somewhat viral on LinkedIn about the fake apology trend, and then you helped write an Ad Age article on the harmful fake brand apologies. Can you describe like what that trend signaled to you, just your thoughts on that, and yeah, your take on that situation as a whole and how it, shapes your thinking about trend participation in general?
Yeah, for sure. I think what happened is I was scrolling and I saw a brand post an apology and I read it and I thought, oh no, like did this brand get canceled? Like what heat did they get in?
Yeah.
And then I read it and I was like, oh, okay, like this is a bit of a joke. And I don't know how the Instagram algorithm works, but I'm assuming once you see something and interact with it in some sort of way, they just show you a bunch. So my entire Instagram feed was just apology after apology after apology to the point where I was like, okay, this is a lot. And I think it was a classic example of a trend that went too far and a trend that never needed to be a trend in the first place. Especially in a time where people are genuinely apologizing on social media, brands have gotten in the heat in the past and have released genuine apology statements. So I think when you put out a fake one, I do think you lose your credibility. And I also don't think it's build you up for success. Like, what if you do have to genuinely apologize down the line,
Mhm.
but you're put out a fake one? So I think you lose a
Yeah.
bit of trust with your audience. So it's not my favorite trend. I don't fault social people on doing it because I think we're in this kind of rhythm where we see trend hop on and it's like very like it's like a natural reaction for us every time we see a trend, so I get it. But I think, in 2026, I think we'll start to see a bit less of that. I think we're seeing a lot of trend fatigue. I remember when I think Taylor Swift released her album, or it was something with Taylor Swift that happened. And every brand that had nothing to do with Taylor Swift was like all talking about it. And I remember seeing a lot of people complaining about it on LinkedIn in specific. So I think the audience as a whole is getting a bit tired of it. So I think we'll start to see that less in the new year.
Yeah, totally. Christina, what was your take on brands, specifically on the Taylor Swift trend, and how do you approach taking part or not in trends as a brand?
I think for myself, I always weigh whether or not it's going to do more harm than it is good. And like a lot of times, I generally lean towards the fact that it's never really that deep. And if it's like pretty harmless, then I'm like, go for it. If you want to put a sparkly album cover up, like, and that makes your day and you want to jump on that conversation, go for it. I do think the apology trend specifically is an example of doing more harm than it does. Like, and I
Mhm.
think another one was when 𝐂𝐡𝐚𝐭 did that whole fraud alert email that went out at 2 in the morning. That was also another one that was probably not it. So I just think sometimes though, I do have to stop myself from over analyzing situations because at the same time, I'm like, when it comes to trends, I try to look through the lens of a consumer. If I'm passively scrolling and I'm not a marketer, will I care about this as deep as marketers would care about it? So I try to like lend with that too, because I know like oftentimes we voice our opinions on places like LinkedIn and it puts this pressure on social people to be more performative for their peers than their actual audience. So back to what Josh was saying when he was like, know your audience, know if this makes sense to you. That's pretty much how I weigh too.
That makes a ton of sense. Yeah, I feel like so much of trend participation comes from FOMO and also um, internal pressure. I'm curious,
Hmm.
like, if you all have ever faced that this year or otherwise. Um, I remember, when I worked at 49ers and was doing social, kind of more day to day, if there was a trend like the apology thing or the Taylor Swift stuff, you just get inundated on Slack by whether it's, your boss's boss who isn't necessarily in social every day, or somebody in the sales department, or the folks who are seeing it on their feed and basically asking themselves, oh, this is what is happening in social. Why aren't we doing this? And it could provide like for kind of an awkward situation where it's like, well, do I need to drop everything to now think of how my brand, fits with Taylor Swift, even if that wasn't like part of my day? And like a lot of social is obviously reactive, but I do seeing a lot of these brands taking part in trends like the apology one. It feels like since it picks up a life of its own, that they may feel pressure to jump on these trends. I guess, Josh, from your perspective, I'm curious how internally you can position against that. You can make sure, you're not logging in on a Tuesday with one plan and then all of a sudden everyone's asking you to post a fake apology. How as a social media practitioner do you kind of guard against that if you do have, a certain way you want to approach trends and maybe other people internally are pressuring you to do otherwise?
Yeah. I think it's different for different folks. So for me, in agency world, it might be different than it is for Eileen and for Christina, or for you, Eric, when you were on the brand side or when you were on, with the 49ers and things like that. So there are different layers to it. One of the things from an agency standpoint is we have the perspective of like multiple clients and multiple brands who are thinking about it at the same time. Should we do this? Should we do that? So, I as an agency professional have the benefit of like gut checking with other folks. But when it comes specifically to the clients I'm on, it's like we have those kind of we have the process, the systems in place to say, okay, this makes sense for us. So here's what we could do. Here's how we can execute it. Here's the time frame. And I think in some areas, client wise, they're probably getting pressure from higher ups to say, hey, I saw this in my TikTok. We should do something like this without really understanding what the trend is. Is it actually something that is based in culture that isn't relevant for a brand or actually a space where a brand should play? So you have to think about those contextual and cultural context issues of should we be playing in this given what the actual, origin of this trend or this meaning is. So you have to start kind of thinking about that. And also, can you play into it in a way that is going to actually, for lack of a better way to put it, be cool? Because a lot of times brands go in, oh, we're going to do this, but you are so far removed from what the trend actually is and why people are participating. You're slapping a logo on it or you're doing something different where your participation is actually, and to Christina's point earlier, having a negative effect on your brand because you're seen as either old, cringy, or what have you. And so I think that that is having a good part of that is having a good relationship either with your higher ups, with your clients, of saying it has to check a couple of these boxes in order for us to move. And here's why. And here are some things you can take to your leadership or to your bosses to say, this is good for us or this is not. And here's why. So a lot of it is systems set up in place and being in place, but sometimes it's like, admittedly, you just got to move on it and you do the best you can with the assets that you have and the things that you can create in that time and just make the best out of it, but also understanding like this may or may not perform as well as we want it to.
I feel like I relate heavily to you calling out the old and the cringe because I like to lean on my age and the cringe
Me too.
factor.
Me too.
Sometimes it's a little endearing, This little old millennial, ew.
I embrace it. I embrace it.
Okay, shifting gears from trends specifically. We're kind of recapping the year. We're meditating on 2025 and what it was like. Was there a moment this year where you thought, okay, social is not the same as it used to be, and this has changed? And if so, like what? Like what has changed for you in social going forward that you're taking into next year? I will start with Christina.
I'm like, why does he have to start with me? Oh gosh, what changes? There's so many changes. I was actually talking about this with somebody the other day about like the social fatigue that I'm feeling. And I think most of
Yeah.
it lends to the fact that this year had felt like an acceleration of content consumption across the board for everybody. I just felt like every brand, every personal brand builder, like everything, there was just so much that was happening along with everything else that's happening in the world. And I just think there are a couple of things that I am personally subscribing to next year, which is that I want to be able to see that brands or people have more intellectual honesty when it comes to the things that they're building and the content that they're sharing. And what I mean by that is that the challenge now, like we were just on the topic of trends, things come and go so fast. But now I would be more interested to see if people can bring more depth to their thoughts. So, instead of these, I don't know, these frilly-nilly, like, oh, here's something real quick, like a throwaway item that you put online, there's actually positioning and stuff that you could really work on and dive into that I just feel would make you much more relatable, and people would rather subscribe to that because they want to know the full story of everything that you're telling. So I actually don't know if that taps into what you just said, but that's what's brewing up my head since this morning. And I see Josh laughing. Why are you laughing? What's so funny?
Because I just think I'm laughing because of just the way you said, like, I don't know if that answers your question essentially, Eric, but I think it did. I honestly think that there should be more thoughtfulness. And I think I have
Yeah.
been, again, going back to the age thing, I've been in social for a very long time. And one thing I can tell everyone is there are cycles to this. There are different
Hmm.
things that at different moments in time will be the thing that social is. We're in a trend unhinged, so to speak, cycle now, that may transition to a more thoughtful storytelling,
Hmm.
in-depth approach for brands. And not every brand can do that,
Yeah.
depending on resources. But I do think that there should be more thoughtfulness in the approaches that social teams take, because at the end of the day, if everybody's doing the same thing, nobody's standing out. And a lot of it is jumping on trends, being funny, which, hey, I put memes out on LinkedIn. Who am I to say you can't be funny out there? But I think that that's one thing that we need to think about as social practitioners is what is going to make us stand out in a world,
Hmm.
in a sea of sameness, so to speak. And thoughtful storytelling, focusing on human connection, emotion, not just like crying, but laughter and joy and all of these things that will make you stand out, because those types of things are relatable for everyone. And if a brand
Hmm.
can nail that or do it right, that content may not necessarily go viral, but some of those key metrics, saves, shares, sends, those types of things that, when you can say, when that signal is, I shared this to my group chat or I shared this with a friend, that is
Yes.
when it hit with your audience.
And I think that goes back to the age-old rule of consistency does pay off in the end. And I think when we're living in a world of instant gratification, it is so easy to give up on things so quickly because you don't see results right away. Whereas like if you are really banking on the fact of like, hey, this is the story that our brand wants to tell, whether it be about your product, your brand, whatever that might be, if you put in the work to actually like spend time to get creative with it, it will pay off in the end. Somebody will share it. It will, maybe it won't go viral I mean, things don't go viral. They do go viral overnight. What am I saying? Of course they go viral overnight. But I really think if you put in effort in the work, it does pay dividends in the end.
I will say building off of that, I do think, and I don't know if this is a Hootsuite thing or like an industry thing, but I think goals, um, for like the social industry as a whole has changed a lot. I remember when I first started working in social, it was all about engagement rates. We want more followers, we want more views, we want to make sure our channel's healthy and it's growing, which is totally fair. And that could maybe just be the stage in which your brand social account is at. But now that we've been on social for so long, it's more about who's commenting. Is our core ICP, are they commenting back on our content? Are they engaging with us? Who is actually liking and sharing our content? So the who matters more than the actual number. If a post gets like 20 likes, that's fine as long as it's 20 likes from the people that we're targeting. So I
Yeah.
think that piece matters a bit more now. And I just want to add this in here just because I know everyone's eventually going to talk about it in the new year. But a new
Mhm.
goal for us, and I think a lot of other social teams, is kind of like search SEO. Obviously, with so many AI tools, something that we're focusing on, and I know a lot of teams are also focusing on, is how do we show up in that type of conversational search.
Yeah.
So I do think it's going to be less, let's put out trending content and get as many engagements as possible, is more going to be like, what are people searching about in ChatGPT or other AI tools? And we need to answer that question with our own social content. So I do
Mhm.
think we'll start to see a shift there, and maybe that could also lean into more of that thoughtful content piece as well as making sure our audience is asking this. Let's make sure we're meeting that demand and putting out that type of content that they're looking for. So I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing that natural shift into next year as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great topic and one that I think it's a little bit daunting for social media teams to think about like taking on almost SEO now as part of our content strategy and part of our expertise. But it also elevates the importance of the social function now, where it's like, yeah, it's not just snacking content when people are swiping on TikTok or Instagram. It's SEO, which is going to extend far and wide, like outside of social, and that becomes, people say like Instagram's your new homepage. Well, now it's going to become your new blog and website too, in a lot of ways. I guess, Eileen, I'd love to like double click on that with you. Like, what does that mean for you without necessarily giving away your whole strategy at Hootsuite? Is it, hey, we need our product to show up there, or is it we need to be providing content that, will make social media teams' lives, your ICP, um, better, more a blog style of like the old SEO content of, how to win on Instagram sort of content. Like, how are you thinking about this now that if you're saying we want to show up in LLMs on our social
Yeah.
content, like what does that change in terms of your strategy? Is it just, what you type, or is it the actual content strategy has now shifted?
Yeah, for sure. It's good that you asked that question because I'm figuring that out right now. I think the first one is just education, like understanding search SEO a bit more. I'm obviously not on the SEO team, so learning like, and I'm working closely with that team to kind of do a bit of shadowing so I can understand how they operate and what they do on their day-to-day when it comes to showing up and that type of paid or organic search. But the second point from what I've learned is being a bit less promotional. Like my goal isn't to go on every single Reddit forum and be like, hey, have you heard of Hootsuite? Or just put out a bunch of content that's very like AI generated heavy with a bunch of keywords so that just so that we rank. That's not my goal. I think it's more so providing like more thought leadership pieces. So providing more takes on where we think the industry is headed. It could be like social media best practices. It could be, thought leadership pieces on what we think is trending in the next year. Anything that revolves around the social media industry that we're operating in is what we want to be talking more about. I think historically we've been like, here's a new Hootsuite feature. Here's a new blog, and we're kind of always linking to something. But I think being able to show up at a point and take some sort of stance and providing like valuable content first, I think is actually gonna benefit you in the long run of helping you rank and certain instead of just going in on every forum that's possible and just putting out a bunch of links. So I don't have a clear answer yet, but I know that I want to take more of like a value slash educational driven approach first. And hopefully with that tactic, it kind of delivers the results that we're hoping to see.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. Okay, let's get to some audience questions. Audience questions. Shannon, Shannon, are you with us?
I
Hey, hey.
am. Can you hear
Hi.
me?
Yes, we got you.
Thank you. So I have kind of a unique experience, I think. I used to work for the NFL, shout out Eric, but now run nonprofit social, which is obviously like a very different kind of brand and audience. Um, and I was interested in the kind of trend conversation we were having. It often feels like we just can't ever hop on trends on social because they feel kind of goofy and fun and it just doesn't fit our brand voice. So, I wanted to ask if you have thoughts or recommendations for ways that brands like nonprofits could create semi-viral, and I hate the term viral, so I apologize, but semi-viral moments to also kind of up our engagement and our visibility. Thank you.
Thanks, Shannon. Great question. Who is bold enough?
Josh
I
has an answer.
I don't have the answer. I am old enough to know that I don't have the answer for everything, but I can share what I would think. And I think it's less probably about going viral or right. And I think it's more about making content. And if you can't jump in on trends where people are that engagement is going, it's about making an impact within the community that you are serving and the audience that you are targeting. What is that thing that is most What are those things that are going to resonate most with them? I think about like organizations like the National Department of Wildlife and those types of brands that are or organizations that probably don't certainly do not have big budgets and are talking about a niche topic of outdoors or something like that that is not necessarily something that is top of mind for everyone, what the wildlife of outdoors, but they do so in such an educational and entertaining, edutainment way of things that their content speaks not only to their audience but to people outside of it. So it may be a scenario where you can figure out what is the core thing that you're trying to say and what are the different levers that you can pull, that can either A, make it more relatable, add a little touch of humor, have somebody learn something that is going to resonate mostly with your core audience, who is then going to share that with other people who may not be there. And that helps with the impact and get it seen more, there versus just trying to jump on a trend and get the nonprofit or the organization seen more. But just consistently going back to Christina's thing is consistently putting out that type of content that your community can carry for you that will ultimately reach a larger audience and hopefully bring more awareness for the nonprofit.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I think that's really well said. I mean, there's always some wedge, some angle that one matters the most to the audience that is most passionate to you and then could have like an extended reach. It's no doubt that some brands, nonprofits or otherwise, have just baked in advantages, right? Like working for the NFL, the problem isn't good content. It's how do you like organize and get it all out in a timely manner? Because there's too much of it where, now Shannon, it's kind of like you have that other problem of like, okay, how do I get really creative with the subject matter at hand? Which is a really good place to be, I think, for your career to have had both experiences and figuring out both types. Okay, let's try another one. Yanni Papas. Yanni Papas, are you with us, Papas?
Yes, hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. You guys are legends. I love all you guys. I see you guys on my feeds all the time. Josh, you're hilarious. Christina, you're always giving intellectual honesty all the time. I love that. Eileen, you're also a legend. Eric, you're a legend too. Um, my question is more so around building a personal brand while also being employed full time in a company. I know you guys have all done that successfully. So, do you have any advice around how you can navigate that while being on brand with your own brand guide, while also not going too far, while also remaining, quote, professional, since no one's trying to get fired for LinkedIn posts? So, like, how do you go about that? I guess I'm wondering.
Great
Yani, I
question.
thought I thought we were here. I was expecting you to be like, I'm here to bark up the wrong tree. Is that not what you're here for? I don't know if he's still with us. Oh, he's gone.
I think he doesn't have the ability to speak now because Christina
Wait,
Pira.
I'm back.
Oh,
Sorry, guys. I muted. I went nonverbal. Yes, let's bark up the wrong tree. I want bold answers. I want hot takes. I want all that stuff.
Okay. I think all of us could give an answer here when it comes to this. I think you're circling around the whole thing of how do you balance building your personal brand while also not pushing it to the limit where you get fired. So I'm sure everybody else here is super professional compared to me. I have built my personal brand with this one notion of like, I want to build enough following so that way I will have enough equity in myself and insurance that people won't fire me because I'll talk about it. And that has been my rule of thumb. But no, generally, I think as an adult, you do know the balance yourself where you're like, okay, am I pushing this a little too far? Like, I'm not going to go out and drag my boss and like be personal about it. But I think it is okay, especially in our space in social where the job itself gets judged heavily all the time. People have heavy opinions on it, be it your boss or the audience or whatever it might be. I have took it upon myself to really like share my learnings and experience in a way that is very personal to me. And I find that it's really important to have that space to be able to talk freely about that and the things that I'm learning. Because most of the times in the teams that I've always been historically been part of, no one knows social as well as the person who's working in social. And oftentimes that team is very small. So I was like, where else am I going to be able to talk about the things that bother me about my job? Naturally, I go on LinkedIn, started building that. And then I just remember being like, I want to be taken seriously. So I want to share my learnings because I want to do all these things. So it's really defining when it comes to your personal brand, defining what what is the purpose of you sharing online? And this maybe tying it to personal brand sounds a little icky, but it's all about ultimately what do you want to do? Some people are like, I want to become famous, I want to be an influencer. That's great. There's several ways that you could do that. Other people are like,
That's
like me.
Josh. That's Josh.
That's Josh.
Yeah.
That's definitely Josh.
Totally.
And there's other people who are just like, I want to be able to be like me, have insurance, be able to not get fired, never have to apply for a job again, that type of mentality. I want to speak on stages. So it's really all up to your goals. And I think when it comes, and I'm gonna shut up here in about 10 seconds, I think when it comes to like balancing it with the brand, having that open conversation initially, like, where are my guardrails? What usually some brands will have that in place. Like, here are the things that you cannot say, that you probably should, like, here are the guardrails. Don't do this. Don't speak poorly about our competitors. Those rules are like those type of conversations should be had up front. And I think it's really toxic if a brand tells you how you should be acting online. I think that there's like a fine line for both you and the brand, where it's like, can you really tell somebody what to do on their personal channel, like how they should, It gets a little, so I always open the floor all the time whenever I join any company. I'm like, so what's the vibe here when it comes to sharing online? Most of the times people are like, well, we hired you because, we like what you post on LinkedIn. So I'm like, great. Well, you're not gonna shut my mouth now. Um, but okay, I will pass it on to the next person who probably has a different perspective.
I just have to say, Christina, I love your LinkedIn because it's not only that I'm learning, like, yes, I'm learning a lot from the professional side, but I get to peer into your personal life as well, which I personally love consuming that content as well. So, yeah, I just want to shout that out because I think you've done a really good job. But from Hootsuite's side, it actually kind of started as a bit of a social selling experiment. It's not just me, but we had a couple other people on on just the Hootsuite team in general that just like posting on LinkedIn. And some of them were people on social teams, some of them were our AEs or CSMs, and we just wanted to see if we posted a bit more consistently, would it kind of spread awareness of Hootsuite, and if I put a link in one of my captions, like would it get more sessions and more clicks compared to like our own organic social account? So we just wanted to test and see that out. Spoiler, it performed much better. People like to follow other people. They like it, not a lot of people want to follow brands anymore. They just want to follow the people behind the brand. So that's like one huge learning from our end. Um, and for me, when I just started posting, I just like posted on LinkedIn primarily just to do a recap of our campaigns. Um, Either way, I always build it whenever I work on a campaign. I build a little deck of the performance results and everything just so that I have it. And I thought, why not just share this to LinkedIn? It might be helpful for someone else. What if someone else wants to run a similar campaign? So it was just out of pure fun, out of like a passion. I used to do a lot of like blogging back in the day. So for me, LinkedIn is like my own personal blog. And posting that, apparently it was helpful for other people. So I just kind of continued. So yes, it did start as a bit of experiments, but I just kind of took it and ran with it because I just liked it so much. And I would also say though, because I work in social, it comes very naturally to me of I'm understanding the trends, I'm understanding what people are saying, I understand the frustrations. So I always just put out one-liners of like, oh, this one thing is like bugging me in the industry, or oh, like just like a quick hot take. And it doesn't take that long for me to get out, but it's been a fun thing for me to sometimes just vent on my own personal account because you can't always do that in work or in Slack. So yeah, I don't know. That it's just been a really fun and refreshing journey. I think for guidelines as well. Honestly, haven't had that conversation. Nothing has really come up that would stir that. But as Christina mentioned, just like, I feel like everyone has kind of the best practices in mind, like not talking about competitors, like not putting out any like harmful content, things like that. So just, rely on like what you know best. Josh, I'll kick it over to you.
What's left? I mean, you both have said it beautifully, and I will be very succinct, which is unlike me when I'm talking. But I started posting on the same stuff I was posting on Twitter, and I brought it to LinkedIn. It was around when we went into COVID, kind of lockdown stuff. I just needed an outlet, and LinkedIn became more of that outlet. And as Twitter became what it was, I spent less time there and focused all of my attention on LinkedIn. And I didn't know if memes would work, and they started to resonate for some reason, and I kept going with it. And for me, Yanni, it's like if my company, they see the post, they know I'm doing this. If I can't be me, 100% me on this platform, then maybe I'm not the right fit for that. But both of the organizations that I've worked for have been great in allowing me to be expressive and do that freedom. And I create a lot of the stuff either off the cuff or I plan it ahead. And so it's not interfering with work time, but at the same time, it's also helped me professionally. And I think hopefully has helped some of the organizations that I've worked with in shining a little bit more of a light because I'm connected to those organizations. And so I just make sure that, as both Christina and Eileen have said, I'm not going to post anything that is going to get the brand and the organization in trouble or me fired, hopefully. Who knows? Maybe I post something that's terrible and they're like, you gotta go. You're terrible at this now. But I just say be 100% you. And if your company isn't down with that, maybe that's maybe that's something that you need to think about of like, where do you want to be?
Yeah, all great points. We'll shift our discussion here to some 2026 predictions, so you all kind of start thinking about that. But the one thing I want to say too that I think ties, or what I heard from kind of each of you, and it came up in the chat of like, well, I want to post more on LinkedIn. How do I do it? I'm already like so tired from my current job. I think what you all are doing and why it works is it doesn't feel like more work. Like you found an outlet in that is more of a passion than work, right? Like Christina, you like writing. Eileen, you mentioned too, you like blogging, and it became an outlet for you. And Josh, you said the same thing around COVID. It's like it's more of a hobby than I feel like I need to do this for my career. And if you could find a way to make it feel not like work, then it becomes like a creative outlet. It becomes like your time to, not be on Slack, not be getting emails, not be on your phone, just listening to music and writing and trying to craft something that is interesting, then it becomes easy. But once it becomes a job, then yeah, it's just every other, your job as a social media person is already so demanding that it's really hard to keep up. Okay, let's transition to 2026. What's coming in 2026? Bold predictions, fears, reservations, excitements. I'm curious, just as we look for the year ahead, what is it that we anticipate? What is it that we're planning for? What is it that we think other social media managers should keep in mind? Eileen, I feel like you already had a really great one with search, right? Like that's going to become part of our jobs going forward. Is there anything else like that, big or small, that we're thinking about as we head into 2026?
I
I'll
think
start
you're
with
gonna
Christine.
see. I think I think we're gonna see I feel like this year there was a lot of creator campaigns and partnerships happening with like, there was a kind of a low barrier to entry, especially on places like LinkedIn, with people just doing these one-off partnership. But I do think that similar to how I said people are craving for more of that long form honesty, I think they're also gonna demand the relational honesty as well, which is they're going to start embedding creators in more than just a one-off activation. I think they're going to start being more strategic with who they want to work with, and people are going to start sniffing out the bullshit if you're just like paying people to basically do a sponsored post and be done with it. And so that's my whole bit. More long-term partnerships, I guess, in a way.
Yep.
Yeah, and I'll say I'll double down on the creator part. And I think not only using creators as and to get more visibility for your brand, but also creators as creatives. Seeing more creators actually creating content specifically for brands, not necessarily that's going to go on the influencer or the creators channel, but specifically for brands because they're the ones that are out there every day knowing how to create. And so that does help develop more long-term relationships. They're essentially these creators are extensions of your social creative team, and they're allowing you to develop more rich storytelling, as Christina said, and deeper stories, because they have that they're creators in and of themselves and they know how to tell those stories. So I think that that's one thing. I also think you're probably and kind of piggybacks off this, but I think you're going to see more episodic content. I think you're going to see more brands like Built doing things like Roomies and having 28 episode social first content kind of series. I think you're going to start to see more of that. So you can continue, you're going to be hooked in on that. And it's kind of almost like weekly kind of viewing. So that is another way to kind of help think about your content calendars and your content strategies for longer term because you know you have this episodic content coming. So I think that's part of it. Um, this isn't necessarily new, but I just want to echo like I think we've talked a lot about content, and Christina is a partner of ours on this, but proactive community management is still way overlooked, and I think this is a year that you're going to see even more of that and intentional, not just jumping on a creator's post just to do that, but more intentional, community-based, passion-based type of proactive community engagement. I can say we have millions and millions of engagements from my client this year and working with Christina and his team at Plot on our proactive engagement. It is amazing the focus that we've put on this year that has gotten us more eyeballs, more relevance, and just it's a strategic decision to focus on CM versus just content. So I'm hopeful that teams will start to double down or people will start to double down on proactive CM as a complement as part of their social strategies.
Josh, I just
Yeah.
want to say I love that when you just like zoomed in while you were talking. If you had that auto framing, it would have just
It would have
on the
come, I would
point,
have went
you
through
know.
the camera. Yeah, if I
This will have to be, whoever's going to be editing this content later needs to do the zoom in for you
yep,
as you
got it.
leaned in. Sorry, Eileen.
Oh, you're all good. Just to build off of Josh's point on community, I do think people also really overlook like outbound and inbound engagements. I think you think like leaving a little comment, what much can it do? But I do think it can make a bit as a much bigger impact than a lot of people think. We have someone else on our team who handles our engagement. She's wonderful at it, and the engagements that she leaves on other people's like profiles, it's very thoughtful. It wasn't just, hey, this is a great post. It's like, let me add more to this conversation. So I think we'll start to see that a bit more. And yeah, like Josh, as you mentioned, like not a lot of people put too much focus on it, and I honestly don't know why. But I know our team is focusing more on it next year. Another thing that we've kind of already touched upon, I think we'll see more employees become creators. You'll see more Christinas and more Joshes essentially on LinkedIn in the future. I honestly think even like Slate, I found out about Slate from Christina because she was posting so much and I loved her video content. So I think we'll start to see more people speaking about their work, the ones that are passionate about it. And I think we'll start to discover more brands that way too. I think like brands need to like invest more in their employees, if only if they want to, and give them the tools and resources they want. If they want to be a creator, if they're like passionate about it and they're kind of your brand ambassador, why not double down on that as well? So I also think we can start to see more of that, which I personally think is really exciting because I like seeing and learning from the people behind the brand. Like, yes, like I love it when a brand puts out some really cool campaign, but as a marketer, selfishly, I want to know how did you work on it? Like, how many approvals did you have to go through? What was the work process like? To me, that's a more fascinating side of things, and I think we'll start to see that a bit more.
Yeah, great answers. Okay, let's see if we can get one or two more questions. Kristen Thomas had a good question about skills needed, which I think is good for as we look, to the future. Kristen, do you want to introduce yourself and ask your question?
Sure. Hey, everyone. Nice to see
Hi.
you. So my question, it's not for me because I'm Gen X and I'm now leading social at a great place to work. So this is a good tie-in, right, with all the workplaces. But the field seems to be shifting more quickly than ever before. And I'm wondering for those on the call who are early career talent, and I've had a lot of college students even reach out to me and have spoken to different college classes. what do you see changing? What's different? What skills do you all think we might be, all of us, looking for to break into this field as early career talent in the next couple of years? I think it's different than what it was in the past two.
I For me, I will go, and I think we started to hit on it. Um, for folks more junior in their career, just starting out, you will have to be able to write a good prompt for AI. That is just going to be mandatory. Is not necessarily being a prompt engineer, but knowing how to get the most out of what you're asking of your AI tool is going to be incredibly key. And younger generations are literally growing up with this. So, as a 65-year-old, C-suite person going to be should not be better at that than somebody just graduating college, right? Like you need to be able to show your leadership and your team how to prompt. That for me, that's a new thing. And but what kind of goes with, which is always in vogue, is learning how to write well. Learning how to be a good writer and write well will take you very far because that will help you with prompts, that will help you with communication, that will help you building decks, how to sell in things. But I think the biggest thing that I'm seeing is probably knowing how to use AI to your advantage, whether it's for briefs, strategy, outlines, those types of things, prompting it to get to what you want is that's the biggest difference and the biggest thing I think that young folks are going to have the skill they're going to have.
That was
I
so
have one.
good. I don't even know. Oh, okay. Go ahead, Eric.
Um, it seems like, especially, compared to, I guess, like 5 years ago, um, just being a video editor and graphic designer, is a key part of the job. But that's easier than ever now with the tools out there. I think a lot of a lot of social media folks, again, like 5 years ago, would say, oh, like learn Photoshop. Like if you learn Photoshop, like you can have a leg up, learn your like Adobe platforms. And now it's much more like get comfortable in CapCut, like make sure you're storytelling via video and like learning how to, edit with like a hook at the start and like what editing looks like. And it's easier than ever to get your hands on those types of tools these days, especially as a college student. But like being a content creator is so much more part of the job than it ever was. And just getting comfortable, like getting creative with like media formats feels like a necessary thing to pick up those skills, before you even like enter the workforce in social media and show that, hey, like, I launched a personal account and do videos on this topic, or just get really dangerous with those tools because again, they're easy to use. You can self-teach, but you can't just because someone knows how to kind of move clips around and use all the features, it's not the storytelling part, which goes back to a little bit more of what Josh was saying. It's like your ability to write, your ability to communicate good ideas, and like creativity, you kind of learn that over time by just creating, creating, creating. So that feels like a really necessary thing if you're young in your career to get really comfortable with. Okay, cool. So we're only 7 minutes left. Christina Pirro is going to kill me if she doesn't get to come on and do her last few things. Let's bring up Katie G for what might be the last question that everybody can answer. Katie.
Hello. Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I had a question which I sort of forgot, but it was around or centered on how to avoid burning out, just in terms of like how you might scale content sustainably if your leadership prefers quantity and maybe you consider yourself more to be of a quality person. Yeah, like I think especially because you're thinking of so many different things, and maybe they might not have that specialization in social, so it's kind of like a hard discussion to have, or like maybe you can't tell them exactly like, oh, this is what I think I need, in order to be able to make more. So
Great
Yeah.
question. How do we all avoid the burnout in 2026? Eileen, do you want to start?
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, and I'm echoing people in the chat, but that's incredibly relatable from someone that works in social media. It's always like the quantity versus like quality kind of discussion. And if people are able to, I would kind of urge them to see if they can push back by doing a bit of an A/B test on maybe, yes, like meeting their demand of quantity and then flipping the switch and then putting out more quality pieces and kind of letting the data speak for itself. Obviously, I think putting out more quality is always going to do better, but I've learned that when you're speaking to leadership, they care about the numbers. So if you can really show up with the data behind it, they really can't say anything once like the proof is in the results that you're getting in. So that would be the first thing. My second thing would be if quantity is kind of what they're hoping for, kind of learning how to play the game a bit. Maybe have a long form piece of content that is of quality, but finding ways you can split up that long, like 10-minute video into 10 short, like bite-sized pieces of content. Learning like ways you can like take one form of content and dissect it up as many ways as possible might help you save a bit of time. As Josh mentioned, leaning on AI, leaning on chat a bit and asking them to like recommend, here's like this long form article, recommend like 5 social posts based off of it. Like finding ways to like use AI and kind of use different tools to your advantage, I think would be like a quick fix. But I'm gonna double down and kind of see if you can kind of show A/B tests and show those different results because I do think that will help you build that case a bit stronger.
I do also think that a lot of times when leadership has this sort of overarching expectation is mostly coming from a place of ignorance. It's truly because they don't understand the work that goes into putting a social post together. And I think that's why I've always lent to the fact of like, you know, earlier when Josh had made the point of be an excellent communicator and it will help you, whether that be writing or whatever it be. Um, I think over communicating the amount of time it takes to create certain pieces of content and always reporting on that and talking about it. Because then, the unblock could either be they level set their expectation or they give you more resources, which I'm of the type who's like, you want more content, you want great content, give me more resources. You don't have the money to put it where your mouth is, then, stop talking. But more often than not, I tend to love having the open conversation because it really, I generally don't want to assume that people are saying this just because they are unrealistic buttholes. I I can't, I can't, I cannot speak in any room with Josh because he just automatically makes me
I mean,
start
when you say a word
laughing.
like that, I'm going to laugh. I'm a child.
Same. But no, I generally don't, I try not to assume that people are just being, unrealistic for the sake of being hard. I think they just don't know. And so it's always helpful to have those conversations. Would you like to add to this, Josh?
Uh, Not kind of in your vocabulary, but I will say I agree with both Christina and Eileen. And that, in fact, I was having a similar conversation last month about how do we look at the data to prove out that the posts that are being pushed down on a particular client are not actually paying off, and that the stuff that is created with more intention and more insight from the social team, those are the things that are actually making the most impact. So you can say these smaller buckets are actually paying more dividends for the organization than these 15 flyers that we're putting on here or these 15 things that we have to put on there that are just actually going unnoticed and downranking our content in the algorithm anyway. So I think the data and proving that out in a way that they understand is the best way to go.
Amazing. Awesome. Well, thank you, everybody. That was a great conversation. Christina, I gave you 60 seconds to do your thing. I think you asked for 10 minutes, so
It's
take
fine.
it away.
It's fine. All of you are, but no, I'm not going to say buttholes. That's crazy. Gosh, someone's gonna clip this and be like, they said buttholes on on the whatever. Anyways, okay, let's do our giveaway. I'm gonna share my screen. Okay, these are the people that asked some questions. Let's spin the wheel.
Spin that
In
wheel.
that wheel. The winner is Yanni. Okay, that's awesome.
Your papas.
Yanni, that's so good. Feel free to DM me on LinkedIn and I'll get you your swag or gift card. Also, everyone, this was such a good chat. Thank you to our panelists. Thank you for being here and just sharing all of your 2025 recaps and predictions. We are honestly so thankful that you've joined us, Eileen, for the first time, and Josh and Christina reoccurring. So make sure to follow them on LinkedIn. I also am going to post our social club Slack as we like to continue the conversation over there. So feel free to join. We have a post-webinar discussion. We kind of talk about things that maybe we missed on this chat. And also, if you're still here, I know there's a lot of people leaving. We have an awesome January webinar panel. We have Zaria Pervez, head of social, director of social at DoorDash, joining us. We have someone from Elf Beauty, and we also have Sophie from Pretty Little Marketer. It's going to be a stacked panel, just like this one was for January. So sign up early. I'm going to post the link right now so that you can sign up and get it on your calendar ASAP. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We'll see you on the Slack and have a wonderful holiday season.
Thanks,
Merry
everybody.
Christmas and happy holidays. Bye.
Thanks, y'all.
Bye.
Bye.